I want to welcome Dr. Ivonne Díaz-Claisse, who is the founder or president of HISPA, Hispanics Inspiring Student Performance and Achievement. It is a nonprofit that mobilizes Latino role models to inspire Latino students to pursue higher education. And under her guidance, HISPA has reached out over 1,500 middle school students throughout the US. And Dr. Díaz-Claisse holds a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from the University of Puerto Rico, a Master's in Engineering and Mathematics from Cornell University and the University of Maryland, and a Ph.D. in Mathematics from Arizona State University. And with that, I'll leave it to Dr. Yvonne. And if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat function or our Q&A function in our Zoom webinar.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to Científico Latino for inviting me. I also want to thank Sergio Labra, who is a student in Scripps, and Daisy Duan at Yale University, who were the two individuals that connected me to Científico Latino. As you can see, the theme or title of this presentation is really a call to action, becoming virtual role models for our youth. And I thought I'll tell you a little bit of that story of, how I went from Puerto Rico, being a student at the University of Puerto Rico of mathematics, and how I became the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization. I call it the unpredictable mathematical journey. The journey started when, as a young student, I was very passionate about math, but didn't really see myself in any of my math teachers or math professors until I had one professor that actually was a Puerto Rican mathematician. And he truly inspired me and helped me believe that it was possible. So I was very, very lucky to work at AT&T as an intern. So I came from Puerto Rico to the United States for a summer. And I was told that, they will potentially support me in studying a master's degree. And I said, what would you like me to study? And I was in a department that were doing a lot of optimization problems in telecommunications, and they recommended operations research. So I found myself doing a one-year master's degree at Cornell University. And that was an experience of a lifetime, not only the diversity of individuals that I encountered, but the challenges that I had to overcome, from taking notes and not understanding what the professors were saying, going to my apartment and translating everything to be able to do the homeworks. But one of the things that I feel looking back I did well was walking the hallways. I always went to other departments, went to other talks, and that led me to a group of people that were working on chaos theory. It was interesting to then, actually, that's a common thread in my journey, that then I was able to do a project at Cornell that was related to chaos theory. And then I became so fascinated by it that I applied to University of Maryland to study with a professor that actually was the one that named chaos theory chaos. So the power of networking is so important. I know we say that a lot, but it's so true, right? I actually went to a conference where this professor was, and I just introduced myself, and I told him that I was really thinking about applications of chaos theory in telecommunication systems. And he said, well, you should apply to University of Maryland and come and be a research assistant. And that's what I did. My journey continued to the point that I decided that definitely I wanted to do a PhD for personal reasons, like we all have family and other situations. I made a decision to move to Arizona. And I got very lucky because this professor had actually have a student of his from like 10 years ago that was at Arizona State University. I invited me to move to finish my PhD there. So always walking the hallway throughout. I got the opportunity to meet some individuals in the engineering department that were working with Intel corporations. And guess what? Intel Corporation then sponsored some of my research. So quite an amazing, exciting journey through mathematics and throughout, the power of walking the hallways, networking, being involved, always part of the Women in Mathematics organization that opened a lot of doors for me. And volunteering to speak. At Arizona, I volunteered to speak about the project that I did at Cornell, and that opened a lot of doors. So you will say, how, from becoming a mathematician, how do you get to where you are today? And one of the things that happened was that I went back to AT&T. And in AT&T, I was working in optimization problems, doing like network capacity problems. But then I discovered this other network of people. They're called employee resource group, business resource groups. This is very common in corporate America. Back in the day, this is a lot of years ago, we were one of the first employee resource group in corporate America. And we were called first the Hispanic Club, then the Hispanic Organization of AT&T Employees. And this gave me a place for me to really build a sense of familiar with other individuals. I had people from the first week that I was working giving me advice about how to behave in your first performance review. How do you get other opportunities within the company? And really, being able to have opportunities to share and celebrate my culture, right? We did a lot of events. Now it's very common to have Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations. We were just kind of starting those traditions at the company. I remember one time we ended up having like 88 scientists and engineers doing the cha-cha-cha because we came out with this crazy idea that we could teach people to dance our traditional dances. And that was kind of like quite a journey, because if you think about it, I was really a mathematician doing data analytics. And now I had this whole network of people and activities that helped me develop certain skills. Professionally was very important. We had a lot of opportunities to speak among ourselves about our work. And that helped us when we had important presentations with others. We did a lot of mentoring and peer mentoring with each other. And little by little, I was building these skills, and I will say developing leadership skills and really finding my voice and representing the company in the community and becoming kind of that leader in the community as well, not only within the organization. And I wanted to share this because I think it's quite interesting to see, from being the local chapter secretary of the organization to becoming the chapter president, and then taking a role as a national membership director, a national professional director, and then becoming the national president of an employee resource group at AT&T. And that's when kind of things got very interesting, because if you think about it, I'm talking around, this is a time where there's more Latinos in the changing demographics are starting to be like more noticeable in our communities, and I started to think about what is AT&T doing for our community? What can we do for our community? What else can we do? This is kind of a little bit of a summary of all the things that Employee Resource Group do. And in academia, this is becoming more common. I, in particular, have worked very closely with the Latino Princetonians at Princeton University, which is the group of Latinos at the university, mainly from the administration level, but also there are professors that join these initiatives. And I started to, as I became more involved in the community and I started to be invited to conferences, to speak at local schools, I started to become more and more aware of the challenges of our students. Something that maybe I took for granted looking back, of having this amazing journey through academia and thinking that, all the students should have the option. But then learning that our students don't know about the opportunities. The students don't understand that there are all these fellowships, research assistantship, study and work programs. And I felt that something needed to be done about it. And I thought about that professor in Puerto Rico that inspired me, right? That validated my dream of becoming a mathematician. And I started thinking a lot about role modeling. I know that there's many needs in our Latino community, like in any community. There's health issues, there is immigration issues, there are so many issues, right? But I thought there's one that I felt needed to be corrected, and that was the lack of role models in the life of our students. That I didn't want that any student will say, I don't know anyone from that looks like me that have done X or Y. I felt kind of like this call to action myself, like a vocation, finding a vocation, and that's when I became more aware of the statistics. Back when I started, it was more like 1% of Latinos in the United States had advanced degree. Now it's closer to 3%. But there was that one moment, the key moment, which was I was invited to speak in Newark at a public school. And I remember thinking, like when I go to Newark, mainly I go to Newark to take the plane to Puerto Rico, right? I was working at beautiful offices in AT&T in Homedale, New Jersey, and Middletown, New Jersey. And rarely I went to really a school. And I found myself walking into this auditorium filled with students. This was 2008. And I just asked the principal, how many of the students here are Latino? And he looked at me like I have just come from another planet. He was like, most of the students here are Latino. And that was kind of like this aha moment. So I told my story as I'm sharing it today, but obviously with details about my passion for math and some of the challenges I had with teachers that didn't believe, because I was a female or a student, a female student, that I could pursue mathematics. I told the kids all of that. And then I told them how I discovered new mathematics. And I remember a line of students waiting to ask me for my autograph. And I thought that, wow, that's incredible. I just spent about 30 minutes of my life here, and students are committing to me to do better in school. I had kids saying, I'm going to now do my math homework, and making promises to me about their future. And that picture, I carry and treasure the picture that I'm sharing here with you, because that's that day. And I remember that girl she would not move, or she would just look at me and smile. So at the end, I approached her and she told me, because of me, she was going to pursue higher education. So that was in 2008, about 46 million Latinos in the United States. So keep that in mind. When I arrived at AT&T, it was only about 30 million. So just in this span of my life, I've seen that number grow so quickly, right? So how did we get here, right? So that day in 2008, I quit my job. I mean, not exactly that day, but right after that day, I decided, I made a decision that I needed to mobilize Latino professionals and make sure that I made it so easy for everyone, so that they will say yes to my invitation to share their story at least once a year. And the focus will be with middle school students. Now, to start a nonprofit organization, you need to look around you and not be shy about asking for help. And I thought of a person that was very important to me. She was a role model to me also when I was at AT&T. She was one of our executives, and her name is Ivonne as well. And Yvonne Shepard was someone that Latinos at AT&T admire, because she was, in the higher ranks of the company. And even though when I was at AT&T, I never met her, I have heard that she retired. And through LinkedIn, I connected with her. And we started talking about HISPA, about this HISPA vision that we had. And she helped me. She is today the chair of the board of directors of HISPA, and she has been side to side with me as we build this organization. We had to make decisions, right? We cannot solve all the problems, so we have to be very focused. So we said, Our focus will be, to really inspire students. And the way we're going to achieve that is by mobilizing Latino professionals. And we are going to have a model in which we are going to select, recruit, support, coordinate, broker, and measure, the engagement of volunteers. And we will work with employee resource groups in corporate America. We will work with professional organizations and alumni networks. And we will be the ones really connecting these individuals with the schools. This drawing that you're seeing here, we drew this in 2008. This is the model of HISPA. It's still vivid, and it's what we do. And, we somehow didn't, use that much technology in 2008. I literally would drive to corporations one at a time and start one at a time in just telling the story, explaining why our students need these role models, why each one of us have a responsibility to share our stories and show those pathways to higher education. And I have not stopped since 2008, again and again. These are some of the earlier photos when I started. And that's how we build this network. I mean, literally one company at a time. Now to continue, the journey, we started with 46 million Latinos in the United States in 2008. We really started with 5 schools, 100 volunteers. We did an event called 100 Role Models in 100 Hours. I had some of my friends from AT&T help me put that event together. We had just like 3 or 4 companies that brought 10 or 12 employees each. And from that day, with about 60 participants in the event, in 2 or 3 days, we had 100 people. They went and recruited other people. So we started our program, and we have not stopped until now. We have done actually 17,000 students have been impacted. We've done 1,700 programs. So, and I have some pictures here, and they're kind of important in the journey, so I'll share with you. In 2008, we started in New Jersey. 2009, we had about 5 schools, and we continued to grow schools in New Jersey. And at one time in 2014, I got a call that in Elgin, Illinois, someone had been invited to be a keynote speaker for Hispanic Heritage Month, and the person had gotten ill. And they asked me on a Friday night, will you come to Elgin, Illinois and share your story and be our keynote speaker? And it was to speak in 4 schools. And I remember like hesitating for about 2 minutes and saying yes. But then when I arrived in Chicago and I realized Elgin, Illinois was over an hour drive, I kept thinking, there's not going to be a lot of Latino students here. Like I was just not believing it. And then when I started going, it was like every auditorium filled with these beautiful Latino faces. And many of the students were English learners as well. And I'm thinking, oh, wow. So that was another moment in kind of in the journey that you are like realizing that, this changing demographics and how that wave of Latino children that are coming, they need us. And it's not only in New Jersey, right? And so our program has expanded to San Antonio, Texas, South Florida, and New York City. And New Jersey has expanded to many more schools. Also expanding to Miami, the first time we were going to do a program, I decided, okay, I want to be the first one. I want to see the students. We want to see that this program works in the different schools. There's different communities, there's different needs. And I remember this young student he waited until the end to tell me, I'm going to be a mathematician too. So those are the moments, through this journey that have kept me going. So that's why I treasure them. And this year, just with the pandemic, we were set out to do close to 300 school visits last year. And with the pandemic, we have to abruptly stop and redefine how do we continue bringing stories to our students. And we've been very, very happy and excited that the schools want the HISPA role models to continue coming in, and we are doing our program virtually. So we do virtual live role model program, and this is the first one that I did this year, this fall, with students in Norristown, Pennsylvania. So now we also have about 200 students we're serving in Pennsylvania. So just this is a quick summary, of our program. Mainly our role model program, what we do is 6 activities with the students, so 6 visits. Within those visits, we are just telling our stories. We're just sharing our journey with the students. And when we do that, believe it or not, we're teaching students about social, emotional, and learning skills. We're telling them about self-advocacy, about determination, perseverance. We're teaching them about, setting goals and believing in ourselves. We're also celebrating our accomplishments. I want to, really celebrate the accomplishments of members of Científico Latino and making sure that your stories are celebrated, everywhere. We also do corporate visits when we bring the students into the corporations. We also partner with the Wharton School of Business. They invited the students to spend the day with them. So it's a lot of like job shadowing and hands-on activities, and just going into these beautiful buildings where the students might pass by a building day in, day out, but they don't know. They can never imagine who the individuals in there are like them, or were like them when they were kids. So it's quite beautiful to see that. I've been very lucky to be in many of these Imagine Days and see the kids, like, first they come, they're speechless. They are like in disbelief of how beautiful these places are. And then they start building that self-confidence, start asking questions, and by the end of the day, they leave with a smile, and that's really rewarding. And that's what we want to see, that they're hopeful for their future. And then the youth conferences, which I am, also thrilled to the thought to be able to continue to expand this program. The youth conference is a day on a university campus where, the kids arrive and there are 100 Latino professionals waiting for them. And we do games with them, we do hands-on projects, and usually we get a very unique speaker, someone that will inspire the students, but it will also, that person will also inspire our role models and ourselves as leaders in the organization. And then, most recently, we have been defining a way in which what we want to do is to work with a group of college students where we provide coaching, leadership development, we engage them into our activities as professionals, but we also teach them about owning their stories and being able to share those stories no matter where they are. When you own your story, you can use that story in your interviews, right? That is going to open doors. It's going to help you when you are having to have that elevator speech and you want to make sure that people know where you come from and that you're proud of that, and builds your self-confidence. When you own your story, it builds that self-confidence and it helps in all aspects of your career. These are just some pictures just to show the joy. This is the youth conference. The one on the right over here is one of our kickoff events that we do every fall, where we announce the schools, we announce the partners. This is the role model program when we're live in Camden, and I believe this one, I don't remember where, and this is Patterson. So talking about role models, right? Role models provide a vision and visual proof for who we aspire to be. And I have to show you, Científico Latino, I have to show you my picture with Albert Einstein. I also, I show this picture to the students, and the students like, did you meet Albert Einstein? I'm like, I'm not that old, but I love this wax figure because I know for many of us, our role models were mainly in the books, right? And it's, it is so amazing when we can stand side to side with our role models. For me, Dolores Huerta, as a community leader, she's a wonderful role model to me, and I've been so blessed to meet her a few times now. And I think it says, yeah, I think she already had her 90th birthday recently. But, you know, it is important that we bring our stories to the students. And also I'm going to say something that is very important. I think we all, as Latino leaders, need to know this statistic. You know, we need to know that by 2036, 1 in 3 students in our public schools will be of Latino heritage. It is our responsibility to let others know this around us. It is our responsibility to make sure academia, schools, high school, colleges, organizations, professional organizations are aware of this, because we all have to work towards supporting that Latino educational pipeline. We need to make sure these students know the way forward and that they have at every step of the way the support to make it. You know, I'm almost, you know, I'm not sure about, yeah, I'm checking the time just to make sure, be aware, and I want to make sure that I have time to answer questions. But one of the things that happened around 2006, 2008 was that I found this paper, America's Perfect Storm. And in this paper, it talks about the changing demographics, the globalization of services, you know, the baby boomers retiring, and really the need for highly skilled professionals. And this paper was, when I read it, was like, wow, they get it. You know, they understand why it's so important that we support this Latino educational pipeline. And I'm very honored to say that ETS is a company that published this article and is one of our strongest partners. Our actually, not only the fund our programs in San Antonio, in New Jersey, but also they provide HISPA an office. So my office is in Princeton, New Jersey, at the ETS building. We have a great collaboration, and I'm just so grateful to this organization. And it's one of those things, is just finding like-minded people that understand, leaders that understand the urgency of this situation, and that they are, you know, ready to help you, and you're ready to help them. So that's important in any projects that you work on. This is just, you know, some of the results that I shared with you. You know, it is our goal to be able to make sure that all Latino students have access to role models. And, you know, we are starting, you know, we started one school at a time, but now with the virtual environment, we've been able to make some adaptations. And that's what I'll talk about that in a second. You know, you think about, you know, what is the impact that something like this can have in the students, and we measure the impact within 1 year. Like we start, it could be at the beginning of 7th grade, or it could be at the beginning of 8th grade, or it could be that you participated in the program when you were in 6th grade. And what we find is that 95% of the students learn more about possible careers. I mean, the students are, they might say, oh, I don't think I want to be an electrical engineer, but I know now what an electrical engineer is. Even the teachers are also sharing information about how much they learn about careers. 93% of the students found the role models presentations interesting. 93% of the students were inspired to do better in school. And one of my favorites is that 94% of the students were inspired to set going to college as a goal. You know, their attitude towards higher education changes. When we work with corporations and also employee resource group within academia, you know, we are doing more than inspire the student. That's our goal, that's our mission. But in addition to that, we are supporting the organization's corporate social responsibility. We are supporting their initiatives on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are supporting employee engagement and retention. You know, employees, when they see the corporation funding HISPA's programs and providing the time for them to be actively involved with these initiatives, they are happier at work. They are appreciative of that support. Not only the company supports the community, but it supports me as a leader in my community. So it is very powerful. And of course, when we're talking about, you know, recruiting, right? In the near future, who are going to be your employees? We need to let students know about the careers of today, so they can start thinking about, oh, do I want to be a professor at Columbia University, or do I want to work for AT&T? Just helping the students visualize the different opportunities that are out there. So the pandemic arrived, and we actually were all set to do our youth conference at Columbia University. We do that with the partnership of the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, the Columbia University chapter, and we had to postpone the event in March last year. And we immediately decided that we could put together a project. We named it 20,000 Inspirational Stories for our youth, in which we will collect our stories, and not only collect them, but classify them, so students can find the stories that are more impactful depending on the situation in their lives, or depending on their heritage, or even the dreams that they have. And at the same time, putting together what we call the Virtual Live HISPA Role Model Program, which is 12 30-minute sessions that we are doing with the same group of students, where they're hearing the repetitive, the ongoing message that their pathways towards higher education, that could help them achieve their dreams. And that has been quite amazing. This year, we scheduled 307 visits, and a special thank you to Robert Fernandez, who participated already. We're very, very grateful. And we hope that many of you are open to this opportunity. For next year, we definitely want to achieve the 500 school visits, and it will be a combination of the virtual ones and the hopefully the real life sessions. So let me just give you a quick peek of the 20,000 Inspirational Stories project. This is kind of how it looks when the students arrive. There are many of these stories here, just 3 examples. All the stories have a phrase that means something special to you. It's kind of the theme of your story. The theme of my story when I talk to the kids is soñar no cuesta nada. Allow yourself to dream. Dream is for free. And that's how the stories are classified. And then we actually have all these filters that the students can use. Were you born in the United States? At what age were you fluent in English? What are the challenges that you faced when you were growing up? For example, when you look in this one, you will see things like domestic violence, and you will see things about, addiction or poverty. And we are very, very proud of our volunteers that have opened up to participate on these projects and have shared their stories with the students in this way. And how powerful is that? As a student, to be able to come here and say, there is some challenges in my home, and we're dealing with poverty right now. I like to hear stories of people that were like me, and see how they, what are the pathways that took them out of poverty. At the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're sharing with the students the pathways to higher education. So yeah, languages you speak, heritage, and all of that. So this is really cool, because the students can pick the stories they want to see, and they can pick, if even the countries, right? What your heritage, and if you're first, second, third generation, and all of that. And almost, I definitely, and please let me know when you think we might have some questions. But you might think, oh, okay, what is my story? Like many of our volunteers, their first reaction is, I don't have a good story. I don't have this, an inspirational story. And then we start talking, and we start talking about, let's think about your upbringings. Let's think about your culture. Let's think about where you were in middle school, and if I do that, I can remember being in the countryside in Caguas, Puerto Rico, and growing up, where, you know, there was like chickens around, and you know, and I remember all of that, right? And the pride of my culture, you know, going over Christmas with the trullas, which is you know, group of people get together with musical instruments and go and surprise people during the middle of the night, and you know, and just thinking about those stories. And then I think, you know, think about your educational achievements. You know, what are the things when you were in middle school, high school, that you were doing right that opened doors for your college career? Or maybe the things that you did not do so well, that you, looking back, you wish you could have done well. I mean, it's just the good thing about this is you're not really giving advice. You know, we are not counselors. We are not telling the kids you should do A, B, and C. What we are doing is we are experts on our stories. We're going to tell the story as it was. And the students can deduct some learning from those stories. And then, you know, how did you secure, you know, how were you able to go to college? Did you have a scholarship? Did you have to choose, you know, a different college because of the financial situation? How did that open other doors? You know, talk about that. Talk about then what you study, challenges you overcame, and then your professional careers. What do you do today? And always, there's always room for sharing, you know, what are the role models that inspire you to continue forward. That's always a wonderful thing to share with the students. And what kind of volunteering do you do? You know, how do you give back to your community, and how engaged are you? That's always important. And then, of course, examples, specific examples of an obstacle that you overcame, or you decided to set a goal and how you achieved that goal. And we've been so blessed to have so many different role models from the public and private sector. You know, a lot of our role models, over 50% of our role models, come from the STEM fields, which has been really amazing to be able to provide that to the students and the teachers. But we do have musicians, and we have entrepreneurs and others. So with that, I think I want to start addressing any questions that you have, but you know, together we will eradicate the lack of role models in the life of our Latino youth. And what I always say to myself, if we don't do it, who is going to do it? And that's how I got here, right? I went from being a math student, very passionate about math, not to say nerd, a nerd, but you know, kind of like following this journey of increasing awareness about the needs of our community, and knowing that each one of us have the power to make a difference, and kind of taking that leap of faith, you know, being brave to say, I can do this, I can see it. And to say to yourself, if you don't do it, who's going to do it, right? So I'll just keep this for now here, just in case if we have some questions, I'd like to address those, and then we can talk about how you can become involved.
Great. Thank you, Ivonne. So we have a couple questions. So one of them is from an attendee: what can I do to help volunteer as an upcoming college senior?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. So definitely, I invite you to send me an email. You can reach out to me at Ivonne, Ivonne, at HISPA.org. We actually are very excited when we have college students join as volunteers. We have we have the virtual program in which you could, you know, share your story, but we also are going to put together a special project. We are going to call it HISPA Discovery Summit, and we're looking for some college students to join in helping us with that project. The date is scheduled for June 2nd. What is amazing about that project is that we are going to have sessions with different companies. As you saw the names of all the companies I have worked with, we're going to have like Zoom meetings with individuals from that companies, where the younger students are going to join in and do some problem solving, and they're going to be visiting with 3 or 4 of the companies. And we're looking for college students to serve as kind of like a ambassador for the young students in those virtual sessions, and at the same time provide you as a college student a unique opportunity to meet people from these companies. So we have AT&T, Verizon, Prudential, Office Depot, Visa. So it will be a great opportunity for you as a college student to also, connect with Latino professionals.
Great, thank you. We actually have another question from Anibal Torres Blanco. He's actually one of our Scientific Latino members. So he will ask his question.
Hey, Ivonne, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much for that great talk. And it's really inspiring. Someone else from the University of Puerto Rico. Yeah, so my question is regarding that note. The virtual sphere allows us to expand our horizons to a certain degree. Are you hoping to expand to Puerto Rico as well and like go back home and bring a little back?
Yes, thank you so much. Congratulations. And let me know where you are today. Where are you today?
Oh, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm at University of Michigan, starting my Ph.D. in biochemistry.
Ooh, I have a good friend from Puerto Rico, from my high school. She's a professor at the University of Michigan. So let's connect. I would like you to get to meet her. So, I say the sky is the limit now. We can go back to just being an organization that physically spends time with the students. We have discovered this amazing treasure that we can connect with students virtually, and our stories are as impactful. The students' feedback is very, very similar than when we are in the classroom. So we are going to continue in a hybrid mode, right? We will have schools that are virtual, we will have schools that is physical, and some that are both. So it's funny that you mentioned Puerto Rico. We have a company that have reached out to us to see if we are interested in partnering, and that they are interested in partnering with us, right? Funding us to go to Puerto Rico. So I will keep your name, Anibal, and we can talk about that opportunity in the near future.
Great, thank you, Ivonne, and thank you, Anibal, for your question. So we have another question from an attendee. Hi, Ivonne, thank you so much for sharing your journey into higher education, and so inspiring what you are doing with HISPA and the various virtual education programs. I'm curious, did you always know you were going to start a nonprofit after grad school? For example, aspirations of running something big out of your own, but not knowing where or what that may be. It would be really insightful for grad students right now who may feel pressured to go directly into academia.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great question. It's funny to reflect on this journey. I definitely knew I wanted to go back to industry. When I was finishing my PhD, I looked for works in industry. So like I interviewed with Motorola, and they were doing a great project with satellites, and they needed some, optimization, and I considered that, and then going back to AT&T, working on, like simulations. So I did not really think about leading a nonprofit organization, but I always knew there was like two sides of me, I guess, let's put it that way. Like even when I was in high school, I loved doing my math homework, but I also was engaged in like doing a verbena every year to fundraise to help the poor. Like I think when I look back at my journey, I think that I always had that kind of doing something else in addition to the mathematics. And then when I got to AT&T and I got very involved with the business resource group, it was that extra something that could help me be more balanced. Maybe it's because I'm a Libra and I have to be more balanced. Not sure, but I did not really start my journey thinking one day I will start a nonprofit organization and do this. This was really a finding my vocation moment is the best way I can describe it. It's like one day waking up and realizing, wow, like my PhD, my learning in academia, my learning about optimization in industry, my work with the employee resource group and business resource group, all of that together was preparing me for this role. And this is the role that I do today as I'm leading HISPA. But I would not say it was something that I knew before. And I actually appreciate that question because nobody have ever asked me that. And it's interesting for me just, real time reflect on the fact that even though I've always done a couple of things like that, the technical and the philanthropic or volunteering and so forth, now it was a journey that I needed to take to take me here. One piece of advice I always like to share, and I don't like to share too much advice because I think once again it's about role modeling, but I will share something which is, like knock at various doors, right? And in your journey, I've always done this, right? When I'm looking for a job, apply to 3 or 4 jobs. When I was applying to graduate school, apply to various graduate schools, like give yourself some opportunities, and somehow the right one is the one that flows. Sometimes we get so concern about, I really want X, I really want X, I really want X, but it's not happening when you have Y that is kind of like flowing and opening easily. And sometimes, my philosophy is that that's a sign that that's the way to go, and to be open to that. So I don't know, I better stop because I'm getting too philosophical here, but I really appreciate your question. And I told Robert at any given point, if one of you want to reach out and have a mentoring 15-20 minutes or half hour, I'm available to you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? And feel free to ask a question through the Q&A, the chat, or we can even raise your hand and we can unmute you for another question. So I think I'll ask a question. With the 20K stories, what came up with the idea of having 20K role models, and when do you think you will meet that goal?
Yes, that's a great question. The idea came from just simply being the year 2020. And, we were like thinking, that sounds really cool with 20 is 20,000 stories. And at the same time, when I think about the organizations that we have reached out, the companies that are involved with the HISPA initiative, if you look at each one of these organizations and you look at how many Latinos are in these organizations, it's over 20,000. So we did an estimate, looking if all the Latinos at X company will commit and all the Latinos at Y company will commit, we will surpass 20,000 in no time. I think that right now we are in the moment of securing funding. We can go as fast as we would like. We are still, to do the videos and the outreach, we do need some funding. So we are in the process of securing that. As of when we will make this goal, it depends on all of us. So here is the call to action, for all of us here in the call, all the networks that you represent, to invite everyone to do it. And I know for my generation, it's harder to sit there and like record yourself. But your younger generation that grew up, doing everything with the cell phones and recording every day, a day in the life of, right? I know it's a no-brainer. So I invite everyone to not only commit tonight to doing this for our youth, but to invite others. And we're going to continue, until we get the 20,000, and we are open to all the help everybody can provide. So thank you.
And just a follow-up question on that. Do you necessarily have to be of Hispanic origin to be part of the 20K role models?
Yeah, listen, we started with that goal, and obviously our outreach efforts, our mission is very focused on making sure we provide those Latino role models. But with these efforts, we have so many people that have become very committed. So currently we have individuals from other, non-Latinos that have recorded their stories. At the end of the day is showing these pathways to higher education and really teaching kids about the careers of today. I mean, many of the careers that exist today were not there 3 or 4 years ago. So making sure that our teachers, our parents, our youth have access to this information on demand now is going to be very important.
Great, thank you. And yeah, and then just I guess a final call for any questions from the audience. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, and I'll write my email in the chat as well.
Okay.
Please, at least, I know there was interest from a college student. Please send me a note, and also to Anibal, please send me an email. I'd like to stay in touch. I really appreciate this opportunity. For now, I invite all of you to go to hispa.org and register first. The first step is to register, then we will admit you or welcome you. We have to check so you can be a user for our website. In hispa.org, there are virtual live role model sessions. You can log in through hispa.org after you're approved as a volunteer. For the 20,000 inspirational stories, you create a profile that is a little bit more, you answer some of the questions to help us with the filter. And then you can, we can, based on today, if you're ready to go, you can record your story and submit it to us. Or if you want to have a little bit more coaching, we also have one-to-one coaching to some of the volunteers. So you can, when you go to 20kstories.hispa.org/role models/, you're able to register for a coaching session. And yeah, just there's many ways to get engaged and be part of this initiative. When you register in hispa.org, you will also be added to our newsletter, so you can see what we're up to. And in the future, when we can all be together again, I hope that I can visit with you. We can do a youth conference at your university, and that we can continue forward. I mean, it's really an invitation today to realize that your story changes lives. Your story will impact students to change their attitudes towards higher education. And that the further you go in your careers, the further the next generation will go.
And then with that note, that's an excellent place to end. Thank you for your time, Dr. Ivonne Díaz-Claisse. And thank you everyone for staying with us through this webinar. And may all of you have a great weekend, and definitely sign up to be a HISPA role model.
Thank you so much.